Welcome to Ordo Militaris Catholicus's official YouTube channel. My name is Brother Alexis Pagnolo. I'm one of the co-founders of the International Association, which operates like a military order. And as you may know, we have a mission in Ukraine to help the Ukrainian people and to assist the Ukrainian military. For that purpose, I have come to the Ukraine. I am now in Kyiv, and I'm making this video from our commander in Kyiv. And I want to talk today about how you can volunteer with the order in the Ukraine. So Ordo Militaris Catholicus is an international association of Catholics who help persecuted Christians. And seeing that Russia's aggression against Ukraine is totally unjust and unprovoked, and that Ukraine is 90% a Christian nation, it is part of our mission to consider helping Ukraine. And I and the other co-founder, A.J. Bauman, we decided to commit the order to this holy work. And I came here to Kyiv at the beginning of May, and I have founded a Ukrainian nonprofit volunteer organization called Cross Azur. And this enables the members of our order and our volunteers to legally enter Ukraine and help in humanitarian works or assist Ukrainian military units as trainers, advisors, such sort, and non-combatant roles. Foreigners can always sign up in the Ukrainian military. If they have combat experience or are trainers, they wouldn't need our organization to do that. But for those who don't want to make that kind of commitment and yet nevertheless have the zeal to serve, we have established a Ukrainian beneficent nonprofit volunteer organization to enable us to do that. So basically, if you're a citizen of most major Western nations, you can already enter the Ukraine without a visa for up to 90 days. After 90 days, you need to obtain a visa. And the visa for humanitarian work is a D10 visa. And that gives you an additional 90 days you can stay in the country. And but you can only get one of those if you're invited by a Ukrainian organization. So our Ukrainian nonprofit Cross Azur can issue letters of invitation so that volunteers could obtain that. But obviously, we're only doing it for the members of our order and our friends and supporters, people we know, because we don't exist to assist people to emigrate to the Ukraine. That's not what we're about. So if you're from Pakistan or Africa, I know you're already writing us, don't expect a response. This has nothing to do with prejudice. It has to do with the fact that our organization is here to help the Ukraine. It's not here to promote immigration. And we observe all the laws of the Ukraine on these scores. I myself obtained a D4 visa. The consul in Poland granted me that, although they're not normally granted. And that is because as president of the Ukrainian nonprofit, I actually have to have a work permit to hold that position. But that will enable me to get a long-term residency visa and stay here a year or more, up to 3 years actually. Whereas our volunteers who get a D4 visa after 90 days can decide whether they'd like a year-long visa, and I can help them obtain that legally, and then they could stay an additional year. So we're an organization committed to helping Ukraine, doing it legally, and getting all the paperwork in order. And there have been a lot of groups helping Ukraine. That's a wonderful thing, and I am thankful for all the work foreigners are doing for the Ukraine. I think that's wonderful. But only organizations who are going to solve the legal issues and get the paperwork in order or be able to be here for the long haul. And that's what our order wants to do. We were founded in 2016, so we pre-existed this conflict in its recent phase. And honestly, we never considered coming to the Ukraine before the current war. We didn't consider a major enough endeavor, and we were not yet able to do that. So now we have a variety of projects that we're involved in. Our humanitarian work, we want to assist in providing food, clothing, and shelter to the victims of war. We're talking about civilian victims. And we're also talking about assisting in medical care in any way we can to injured Ukrainian soldiers, whether it's a point of view they need housing or they need their expenses paid or they need prosthetics. And those are all kind of projects we'd like to do. But our organization in Kyiv, across Missouri, is a volunteer organization, so it's to give manpower to help. And we're in a unique position to do that because being from members of our order, being from the West and not being Ukrainians, we can help Ukrainian needs get connected with solutions that are provided in the West. So here in our community, we're going to become kind of like a beehive of activity for that. And but our legal status enables us to obtain D4 visas for military men in the West who want to be trainers for Ukrainian military units, but don't want to sign up as members of the Ukrainian military because their family doesn't want them to take that kind of commitment. Their wives or their husbands are too much concerned, and they want the flexibility where if their family needs them or the situation changes, they're free to leave anytime. They're not under any obligation. And this way, we could help provide the Ukrainian military with dozens and dozens and hundreds of trainers, volunteers. We also have a program we want to raise funds to help them with personal needs if they have personal needs back home, because a lot of trainers are very skilled people, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have the financial capability on their own expense to come here to Ukraine and help. Not signing up as members of the Ukrainian military, they're not eligible for receiving a salary. So someone has to provide a stipend or something, and that's something our organization can help provide. So if you would like to volunteer, please consider it. First of all, think about it seriously. This isn't something to be done on a whim of fantasy, venturism, or because you've been watching a lot about the news on the Ukraine. This should come out of a profound desire to help the Ukrainian people and out of a desire to have compassion on helping the little guy in the fight, because Russia has like 20 times more equipment and it has about 15 times more the population. Ukraine is the little guy in this fight, even though, from what you've seen you see they're holding the ground very well. But our order is here to help the Ukraine because Ukrainians are Christians. And we're looking for volunteers that come out of a love of Jesus Christ and of his people and want to do this for the love of Jesus Christ. We think the best insurance policy is to be doing this kind of work for the love of Jesus Christ, because he says, greater love no man hath than to lay down his life for his friends. So the Ukrainian Christians are our friends, and we are come here to help all of Ukraine, Christians or non-Christians, whoever needs help. And so putting ourselves at risk is something we know that Christ, if we do it for the love of Jesus Christ, he'll have our back, he'll have our six. So if you'd like to volunteer, you can call our headquarters in the United States at 1-406-299-9260. Or you can contact our headquarters on Twitter at OMC_HQ. And those are the two ways to contact. And expect to be asked for a resume. If you are a former member of the military, if the United States is the DD-214, otherwise we'd like to see a document showing that you're actually separated from the military. If you're currently working in the intelligence services of any foreign power, please be sincere with us and don't apply, because if we should discover it, we will dismiss you. We are not here to gather intelligence on anyone. We're not here to gather intelligence for one side or other. We don't get involved in government. If you're a government employee, if you're currently an employee of the government, you will not qualify to be a volunteer with us, because we do for Christ. We're not here at the service of any national interest. And expect that I will ask for a face-to-face video conference with you. And the phases for volunteering would be, if we accept you as a potential volunteer, you have to come to the Ukraine at your own expense. with your current passport. And if you're from a nation that, and we're talking about nations where you can enter Ukraine for 30, 90 days without a visa. Okay. If you're from a nation where you couldn't enter the Ukraine except with a visa, we're not going to consider you as a volunteer only because of the complexity of the paperwork. At the end of your 30, 90-day period where you don't need a visa, I'll sit down with you and and the other members, and we'll frankly talk about, how you've participated, how you have collaborated, whether I think you're a benefit to what we're doing here in the Ukraine, whether you've shown yourself worthy of getting our endorsement or not. And if all those things are positive, I will give you a letter of invitation so you can obtain a D4 visa, allowing you to stay another 90 days in the Ukraine, during which time, I think up to the 80th day, you're free to decide whether you want to stay longer. And if you want to stay longer and I approve, I'll help you obtain immigration, a 1-year visa to stay in the country. Now, our volunteers in our order pay all their own personal expenses. So expect to pay your food, your clothing, things like facial care, toothpaste, soap, and things like that. But our order will pay for your health insurance in the Ukraine and your housing. And we will pay your visa fees if you get to the point where we approve you for getting a D10 visa or a 1-year stay visa. And that's how we balance the expenses. We are not a wealthy organization, so we can't afford paying all your personal expenses. And so we want some personal commitment from individuals, and that will help those who are not totally down and out realize that we expect them in some way to be collaborating here. And we will have our rules and regulations. Volunteers our volunteers in the Ukraine will wear our Blue Cross. They will have a regulated uniform, color shirt and stuff. I haven't yet established that, but that's what I want to do, so that when we're out in public at all times, people know that we are Ordo Militaris Catholicus. We are here to help the Ukrainians. And we want to be zealous in that, so that the symbol of our order becomes recognized throughout the Ukraine as a group that's here, that are friends of Ukraine and out to help anyone, whoever they may be. And so we are a Catholic organization, but anyone who wishes to serve with us, we're more than happy to consider them as a possible volunteer. You must understand, however, that we are a Catholic organization. We run the organization according to Catholic principles, and our managers, are all the people making the decisions in our organization are Catholics. And that will be the way to be, even if our volunteers are of some other religion. That's only so that we can maintain internal coherent activity with our foreign organization, because what I say, we're an international organization. So if you'd like to volunteer with us, pray about it, consider it seriously, and then contact us. And there is a lot to do in the Ukraine, and there are very few foreign organizations that have gone as far as ours has to found a Ukrainian beneficent volunteer organization, so their workers can stay in the Ukraine long term. And so our unique doorway between the outside world and the world of the Ukraine. And it's not necessary to know Ukrainian come here, but if you're going to, if you want to spend the year here, then and understand that once you get your 1-year long visa, you have 6 months to get a Ukrainian driver's license, where you have to take the exam in Ukrainian. So we'll see what we can do to organize courses in Ukrainian. I myself don't know a word of Ukrainian, so don't let it faze you. So you can operate in the Ukraine even without, if you know some English, because the Ukrainians know, many of them know English. Okay, so this finishes my brief briefing. And all of you who don't have the means, or maybe the willingness or the courage to come to the war zone, please pray for all of our volunteers. They'll need your support. We have already 2 pledged, and another one considering. So the more the merrier. You know, if we can get 100 volunteers here, our organization is willing to help and make that happen. So especially if you are an expert in something that is highly needed, like you're a military trainer, or you know something about field medicine, those are very important skills. And or if you have expertise working with the poor, the victimized, the traumatized, the hungry, the needy, things of that kind. And so if you have those skills and you're having the willingness, and I forgot, you need to be in good health. We're in a war zone. You need to be in good health. You need clarity of mind. You have to have situational awareness. You can't be someone that's like, you don't know what's going on around you, okay? Because we're in a war zone. So, you know, seriously speaking, at any moment, it is possible that you could be killed, maimed, dismembered, disabled for life. You have to understand those risks. And if the war changes, that you might have to flee as one zone or another. And that you are personally responsible for the risk you're putting yourself in. And if you come as a volunteer, we'll have you sign a long legal statement saying that you had taken all the risk, you have come here freely, and we are not at all liable for anything that should happen to you. That's to be expected in a war zone. So this is what it is. So the Ukraine is at war, and we've come here to help the Ukraine, so we have to be also on a war footing. And so this is a very serious decision to make. It's not a light one, but it is a very great and honorable one. And Christ teaches us it is the greatest charity. God bless. Deus Vult.